What's up? Come on, sir. Star Spangled Banner up. Star Spangled Banner's next.
Is there a singer?
After this.
Is there a singer? Is there a singer?
First hour. Nobody from the first two songs. We just did drum roll and go. How about a rumble? Yeah, rumble. Sure. Coffee shop.
Alright, man. Too bad I didn't have a black shirt.
Next year, watch you put this tent in the shade somewhere. Maybe right in the middle, near the fountain, you know, so everybody can hear us in the shade of the tree. There should be a tree house with copper gutters.
Oh, I saw this.
We're coming back to the program. We're coming back in the middle of the night stealing the copper gutter. Hey, George, how are you going to start this? One measure in the progress. One measure in silence in the progress. Nobody plays on beat one, right? Correct. Somebody could. We should have the drum roll on
You guys need some water?
I think we're fine. That's not going to work.
30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Minus 10.
No, with this help. No, I think messed up.
Let's do it. Here we go. And one measure of silence, then the
This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us pray. Almighty God, who has brought us to this sacred hour and this happy occasion, we ask your blessing upon these graduating seniors who come before you with grateful hearts. How good it is to be here at last, to have passed at last, to have survived and thrived, endured and prevailed. Oh God, you remind us this morning that here and there in our lives, if we are fortunate, we find a place so precious and people so dear that we think of it as home. And for these soon-to-be graduates, Randolph-Macon College has been such a home. Even as they anxiously await the march to the podium, may they recall their 4 years in this home, the places they walked, the people they knew, the lessons they learned, trouble they survived, futures formed. Some may grow nostalgic, thinking of nights in the library, days by the fountain, hours in the classroom, minutes until the exam. They grew up here and grew close here. They had their character tried and molded here. They had their minds enlarged and expanded here. They had their hearts touched and convicted here. Some of them fell in love with learning here, while others simply fell in love here. Most of them sprouted wings and flew here. We thank you, God, that this college took them in and is about to turn them loose without ever letting them go. We give you thanks for these young people who have enriched our lives. We praise you for their zest and radiance of youth, for their untamed hopes with which they continually refresh us, for their undimmed eyes to see and their undiscouraged vigor to achieve. O God, enlist their strength in your service and in the service of their fellow human beings, making this a better world for all. Amen. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Alan Rashkind, proud to be a graduate of the college, class of 1969, honored to serve as chair of the college's Board of Trustees, and privileged to welcome you to today's commencement ceremony for the class of 2013. It's a great day in the life of the college, and it is a great day to be a Yellow Jacket. I want to start by thanking everyone who is here today, students, parents, alumni, faculty, friends, and distinguished guests for all the many meaningful ways in which you support and nurture this wonderful college. I bring special greetings to the class of 2013 from the Board of Trustees, many of whom are seated behind me on the stage today. And like everyone in attendance, they are here to celebrate you and to congratulate you, the class of 2013, for your outstanding accomplishments and activities in the classrooms, on the athletic fields, throughout campus organizations, and throughout our community, our Commonwealth, and even our nation. You are a credit to this fine institution, and we're proud to welcome you as lifelong members of the family of Randolph-Macon graduates. We take great pride in installing the class of 2013 into that noble company of Randolph-Macon educated men and women. Now, I submit that your obligation, indeed I say your mission, should now be to use your education not only to enrich your own lives, but also the lives you touch as citizens of our global society. Your liberal arts education you received here has imbued you with rare gifts and values that will pay dividends throughout your lives. Promise those that are here to support you. Promise yourselves that you will use those gifts and values wisely and unselfishly. This morning we have with us a special group of alumni who I would like to honor. Like the graduates of the class of 2013, they too are graduates of this fine institution, but unlike you, they graduated at least 50 years ago or more. We call this distinguished group the Boyden Society, and this year we induct into its membership the class of 1963. They'll be inducted immediately following this ceremony, and at that point, the total membership in the society will be 918. I want you to hear about these people, though. Since leaving the college, they have not left the college. The members of the Boyden Society have remembered the college and their education here and the values they learned here, and they have indicated their appreciation tangibly through generous support of Randolph-Macon College. In the last 28 years alone, this group has contributed over $48.7 million to the college. With their contributions are so noteworthy, I'm going to ask that the class of 1963 and all members of the Boyden Society who are here stand so we can recognize and applaud you one more time. Thank you. For each of our graduates and their families, the year 2013 will always be a special year. So too is it a special year for the college. In 2011, we launched Building Extraordinary, the most historic capital campaign in the college's history. This $100 million initiative will provide the resources to help ensure that the exceptional education and experience each of you has had at Randolph-Macon will be available for future generations as well. I'm pleased to announce that because of the generous support of extraordinary alumni, as well as extraordinary parents, extraordinary friends, faculty, and staff, and even more importantly, extraordinary students, though I don't want to give away the secret regarding this year's senior gift, which will be announced in a few minutes, but to date, we have already raised over $87 million in funds and commitment. Thank you all. Many of you who are members of the class of 2013, indeed I'd say all of you, have had the opportunity to enjoy some of the benefits of the campaign through the new athletic and residence facilities and renovated academic buildings. You can take pride in knowing that future generations of Yellow Jackets will have access to these and other facilities as well. And perhaps one of the most prominent and tangible results of this campaign graces the site of today's celebration, our magnificent new Student Center, Brock Commons, which is located over there, and I now see some people have scoped out some really good seats for this event. Why didn't I think of that? It's my great pleasure this morning to recognize the principal benefactors of this magnificent building, my predecessor as board chair, Macon, and his wife, Joan Brock. Macon and Joan, please stand and allow us to thank you for all you have done and continue to do for the college. If I may depart from my text for a moment, I also want to recognize another former chair. John Clemens, who was Macon's predecessor's predecessor, is here at graduation, as he has been for many. But this year it's even special, more special, because he's here to celebrate the graduation of his grandson. John, would you please stand and allow us to congratulate you? John, thank you and the Clemens family for all you do and for all you've done and continue to do. Back to the building, I hope after today's ceremonies, each of you will take the opportunity to tour this extraordinary facility. And I urge each of you who are members of the class of 2013 to come back often. Don't wait for your 50th reunion. Don't wait for your 5th reunion. You are wed to this place now, and I urge you to come back often and renew the bond to this place that you will never be able to leave and you never want to leave. Again, I thank all of you who share today with us, whether your connection to the college spans 4 years or less, or 50 years or more, or something in between. We're glad that you're joining us today for this festive and important occasion, a milestone in the lives of our graduates, and a most fitting way to recognize Randolph-Macon's 183rd year of service to the Commonwealth and the nation. I know you'll enjoy this wonderful morning, so please sit back and relax, enjoy the cool breezes, I know they're out there, and let me get this ceremony underway by introducing our president, Robert Lindgren, and our provost, Dr. William Franz, who will begin with the presentation of our honorary degrees.
I would now like to call on Dr. Joan Connors, Associate Professor of Communication Studies, who will read the first honorary degree citation. And I would like to ask Ms. Katie Couric to please come forward between President Lindgren and me.
I am pleased to recognize award-winning journalist and television personality, Katie Couric. She is the host of Katie, a syndicated daytime talk show, and is also a special correspondent for ABC News, contributing to the network's news programs and primetime specials. A University of Virginia graduate, Katie Couric made history in 2006 when she became the first woman to solo anchor a nightly news broadcast on network. She expertly served as anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. Prior to that, she was co-anchor of The Today Show on NBC for an unprecedented 15 years. Katie's demanding work extends beyond the television studio. She is also a cancer research advocate, author of the New York Times bestseller, The Best Advice I Ever Got, Lessons from Extraordinary Lives, and co-author of 2 children's books. She founded Stand Up to Cancer, which raised nearly $200 million to accelerate cancer research and bring new therapies to patients, and the J. Monahan Center for Gastrointestinal Health at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell Medical Center, which is named in honor of her late husband who lost his courageous battle with colon cancer in 1998. Katie also helped launch the National Colorectal Cancer Research Alliance to fund cutting-edge research in colorectal cancer and generate awareness about the life-saving value of screening. Today, it is with delight that we bestow the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters, on Katie Couric.
Katie Couric, we commend your dedication to informing millions of people about the important issues of our day. You are a trailblazer, not only for women in communications, but for all aspiring journalists who dream of success and respect in their field. Your tireless advocacy for cancer research and screening awareness is truly admirable. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Faculty and Trustee Committee and upon the vote of the Randolph-Macon College Board of Trustees, by virtue of the authority vested in me, I award you the degree Doctor of Humane Letters with all rights, privileges, and honors appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
The citation for our next honorary degree will be presented by Dr. Brian Turner, Professor of Political Science and Chair of the Department of Political Science. Would Mr. Robert Lambeth, Jr. please come forward between President Lindgren and me?
Robert Lambeth has championed higher education opportunities for students at Randolph-Macon College and students at all of the private independent colleges in the Commonwealth of Virginia for nearly 30 years. As president of the Council of Independent Colleges of Virginia, he oversees the lobbying of the Virginia legislators to provide the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grants. The TAG program currently provides over $60 million per year to students attending Virginia's independent colleges. Under Mr. Lambeth's leadership, 13 of the private colleges in Virginia have taken on health care premiums by launching a first-of-its-kind self-insured health care consortium that has resulted in more effective cost controls, more choices in plan design, and real negotiating power with insurance carriers. In addition to his unceasing work on behalf of Virginia's private colleges, Lambeth has also worked to preserve historic landmarks. His outstanding legal work was instrumental in saving the historic retreat of former United States President Thomas Jefferson, known as Poplar Forest. Lambeth formed the corporation for the landmark and continues to serve on its board of directors with his wife, Lynn. While serving on numerous national higher education boards and advisory committees, Mr. Lambeth has been generous with his support of his alma mater, Randolph-Macon College. He is a member of the Society of Alumni, Board of Associates, and served as chairman of his reunion class. Students are always at the forefront of his efforts. Mr. Lambeth has spent time on campus participating in career speaking events and volunteering his support for his fraternity, Phi Delta Theta. Today, we are pleased to bestow the honorary degree Doctor of Laws on Mr. Robert B. Lambeth, Jr.
Robert, with appreciation for your support of all independent colleges in the Commonwealth of Virginia, for your leadership in making private college costs more affordable for our students and families, and for making private college presidents look good at all times, and for your generous support and dedication to Randolph-Macon College, we are delighted to honor your diligent and effective work today. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Faculty and Trustee Committee, and upon the vote of the Randolph-Macon College Board of Trustees, by virtue of the authority vested in me, I award you the degree Doctor of Laws with all rights, privileges, and honors appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
The citation for our third honorary degree will be presented by Dr. Amy Goodwin, Professor of English. Would Dr. Roger Martin please come forward between President Lindgren and me?
We are proud to recognize the 14th president of Randolph-Macon College, Roger H. Martin. This beautiful campus, located in the center of the universe, was his and Susan Martin's home for 9 years. Under Martin's leadership, Randolph-Macon rose in the higher education rankings as one of the top 100 national liberal arts and sciences colleges, adopted innovative strategies to enhance student engagement and grow student retention, expanded and strengthened our Division III sports program, and enhanced the quality and appearance of our historic campus. During his first 3 years as Randolph-Macon president, Martin led the final stages of a $41.5 million capital campaign, which exceeded its goal a year earlier than expected. As a result, the college's endowment doubled, and we saw renovations to Old Chapel, Blackwell Auditorium, Thomas Branch Hall. Martin also oversaw the creation of what we fondly call Freshman Village, where most of our graduates spent their first year. A recognized scholar of British history, Martin has published extensively on the 18th and 19th century history of the British Church. As a college president, Martin championed the education of the whole student, and in 2004 enrolled as a 61-year-old freshman at St. John's College. His book, Racing Odysseus, A College President Becomes a Freshman Again, chronicles the time when he attended classes, reunited with books about Homer, Plato, and Herodotus, and most interestingly, made the college crew team, racing at the head of the Occoquan with 8 teenagers. Today, we salute your life's work in higher education and thank you for the wonderful work you accomplished at Randolph-Macon College. It is with great pride that we bestow the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters on Roger H. Martin.
Rusty, your remarkable vision, dedication, and strategic planning leadership set the course for our students to recognize Randolph-Macon difference in higher education. Your initiatives enhance learning in and out of the classroom, improve the quality of student life on campus, and forge new and vital relationships with the town of Ashland and Metro Richmond communities. And you were most gracious in supporting my transition here to Randolph-Macon as well. It is an honor to stand beside you today to present this degree. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Faculty and Trustee Committee and upon the vote of the Randolph-Macon College Board of Trustees, by virtue of the authority vested in me, I award you the degree Doctor of Humane Letters with all rights, privileges, and honors appertaining thereto. Congratulations. It is now my honor to introduce today's speaker. Born in Arlington, Virginia, Catherine Ann Couric was destined to be a journalist. Her father was a public relations executive and an editor at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Her mother was also a professional writer. While attending Yorktown High School in Arlington, one of her teachers, James Allen, had a significant impact on her life. He became a mentor to Katie, and the two developed an enduring friendship that has continued until today. Jim Allen also happens to be a distinguished alumnus of Randolph-Macon, class of 1957, and it was at his initiative that we extended our invitation to today's guest speaker. And he is justifiably proud to have her on campus at his alma mater. And Katie, as you know, Mr. Allen is with us today as a member of our Boynton Society. So would Jim Allen please stand and be recognized? Katie has traveled with us to be with us today from her home in New York City. She is the proud mother of two wonderful daughters, Ellie and Carrie, and we are honored to have her own mother, Eleanor, and daughter Ellie, herself a newly minted graduate of Yale University just 2 weeks ago, joining us today. Would you two ladies please stand and let us welcome you? After high school, Katie attended Mr. Jefferson's University up the road in Charlottesville, where she worked on the school's award-winning student newspaper, the Cavalier Daily. She graduated with honors in English with a focus on American studies. After graduation, she moved to Washington, D.C. to begin what would be a long and illustrious career in television news reporting. Katie, in 1979, started where most people might hope to end up, working at the ABC News Bureau in our nation's capital. She then spent the next 10 years working in various roles for stations and networks throughout the country, including CNN, before moving on to become NBC's first national correspondent. In 1991, she began a new job on a program that some of you may have heard of, The Today Show, an important role for which she would stay in for 15 exceptional years. During her tenure on Today, Katie became known for her charming demeanor combined with a hard-hitting journalistic style of asking the tough questions without being overbearing, a remarkable achievement. Not one to rest on her past accomplishments, in 2006, she went on to conquer new worlds with a new role as the first solo female anchor of a nationally nightly news broadcast, serving for 5 years on CBS's Evening News with Katie Couric. In August 2011, she launched her own highly successful daytime show, Katie. There she continues to cover important and interesting topics ranging from the physical and mental health and nutrition to interviews with some of the most significant entertainers and newsmakers in the world. Indeed, throughout her career, Katie has covered some of the most important national and international stories of our time. She has interviewed presidents, cabinet members, celebrities, and business leaders from around the world. And one of Katie's interviews was significant to our own Randolph-Macon family. While covering the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens, Katie interviewed our own professor, Dr. John Camp, at the historic Agora site, or Greek marketplace, where he resides each summer, directing the excavations and working with students from RMC and from around the world. Dr. Camp gave Katie and millions of viewers a memorable guided tour around the fascinating Acropolis and Agora sites. Throughout her career, Ms. Couric has won awards too numerous to name for all of her achievements in journalism. But perhaps her greatest contribution to our society, and an especially wonderful example for you graduates today, has been the way that she turned a profoundly personal tragedy into a force for good and became one of America's truly most effective cancer advocates. After losing her husband, Jay Monahan, to colon cancer in 1998, she became a tireless activist for cancer awareness and prevention, raising millions of dollars towards cancer research. In the year 2000, she had a colonoscopy live on the Today Show, which in turn inspired millions of Americans to get tested. After her courageous public exam, researchers reported that colonoscopy rates spiked over 20% across the country. This became known as the Couric effect. In March of this year, Katie focused an episode of her daytime program on the prevention of all kinds of cancer. And in her own words, she has written, and I love this, "I hope the first line of my obituary includes my cancer advocacy work. Besides raising my girls, it is the accomplishment of which I am most proud." Katie, you have every right to be proud. All of us here today salute you for your tremendous efforts towards finding a cure for this dreaded disease. Graduates and guests, please give a warm Randolph-Macon welcome to your commencement speaker, Dr. Katie Couric.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. President Lindgren, thank you for that wonderfully kind and moving introduction. Thanks to Professor Joan Connors for bestowing this prestigious honor upon me today. You know, that's exactly what you need in the summer in Virginia, is an extra layer, right? It's always important to dress in layers in June. To the faculty, administration, all the distinguished guests gathered here, thank you so much. Really, I feel so honored to be sharing this joyous occasion with you today. And I'd like to also thank Jim Allen, one of my very favorite teachers at Yorktown High School in Arlington, Virginia, and a member, as we heard, of Randolph-Macon's class of 1957, for extending the invitation and refusing to take no for an answer. And to all of the parents here today, well done. Your child is graduating from college. Nice work. I know the feeling. As you just heard, my daughter Ellie just graduated a few weeks ago, and I spent the morning of her big day listening to Paul Anka singing "The Times of Your Life" on my iPhone and crying. It was pretty pathetic. So I have a little sense, parents, of what you're feeling today. Watching Ellie get her diploma made me feel so proud, so excited, and so old. And of course, I have saved the best for last. Congratulations to the class of 2013. I'm very happy to be here in Ashland, Virginia, or as you people call it, the center of the universe. But I want to tell you, it was a little dicey getting here today. I took a wrong turn, and somehow I ended up at Hampton-Sydney. Can you imagine? Thank God I eventually found my way here, because I needed A, little girl power, and B, I did not bring my wide whale cords with the little ducks on them or my topsiders. So, someone said you would like it if I dissed Hampton-Sydney, no? Meanwhile, you know, I can see why you all love it here. I've eaten my way through Ashland already. I came just in time for fried chicken Fridays at Estes. I washed it down with a jumbo margarita at El Az. I tried to convince them it was my 21st birthday, but they did not believe me. I also wanted to soak in a little local color, so I tried to go for a swim in the fountain last night, but it was unfortunately too sudsy. So instead, I went looking for the ghost of Alice at Mary Branch. I found her, and she and I played a little cornhole with Mama from Andy's. Alice and Mama, by the way, both said to tell y'all hey. Anyway, for those of you just waking up from the senior gala, it is Saturday, June 1st, your graduation day. But seriously, being chosen to deliver a commencement speech is an awesome honor and responsibility. The goal, of course, is to be entertaining, somewhat brief, and impart some hopefully useful information as you leave this chapter of your life behind and set off to conquer the world. So with a few past speeches under my belt, this time I decided to take a slightly different approach. I wanted to make sure I was telling you all not what I thought you should hear, but I wanted to let you tell me what you wanted to hear. So with that in mind, I asked you for your questions, and by the way, you all sent in some great ones. This is so 2013, isn't it? I got in touch with my inner hipster, and I have crowdsourced this speech. What could be more perfect for our social media generation? So let's get started. Victoria Harrison. Where are you, Victoria? Hi, right there. Victoria asked, is it normal for us to feel nervous leaving college and stepping into adulthood? Oh, Victoria. Of course it's normal to feel nervous, but I'll take nervous and raise you one. How about terrified? Let's face it, you all are entering a world that doesn't seem to be exactly waiting with open arms. We're still feeling the aftershocks of the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. People may not be knocking down your doors with job offers, and the competition is fiercer than ever. But times are not only tough for college grads. In terms of global competitiveness, our country is in need of a big old can of whoop-ass. The World Economic Forum now ranks the U.S. 7th in terms of labor, economy, and innovation, and it's the 4th year in a row we've been downgraded. Another study found among industrialized nations, we rank 25th in math, 17th in science, and 14th in reading. Yikes. How many times have you heard that your generation is not going to do as well as your parents? Honestly, it's enough to make you spend all day in your underwear watching YouTube videos of skateboarding cats. So yes, it is completely normal, Victoria, to be nervous. In fact, it would be abnormal not to be. But instead of trying to make those feelings go away, as we often do, and we need to be happy all the time culture, embrace it and know that you will never feel more alive than when you're just a little bit scared. You'll be testing yourself, stretching yourself, and leaving this beautiful, intimate campus and a routine I'm sure you've gotten pretty used to over the last 4 years. You're getting out of your comfort zone, and that can, unfortunately, be, well, uncomfortable. But you're not going to just go through it. You're going to grow through it. So keep your eyes wide open, because in so many ways, your education is just beginning. Meanwhile, Connor Moe asks, Connor, where are you? Hi, Connor. How you doing? What is your take on the unique challenges our generation will face after college? Having one generation, Connor, trash the other that comes after it, is as American as apple pie. I'm sure your parents, or at least your grandparents, remember Paul Lynde and Bye Bye Birdie singing this little ditty. Kids, I don't know what's wrong with these kids today. Kids who can understand anything they say. Why don't they act like we did, perfect in every way? What's the matter with kids today? Okay, I'm not going to quit my day job, don't worry. But there has been so much written about your generation that I could fill shelves with books and articles about millennials alone. Managing millennials, millennials rising, millennial momentum, and that's just from the M section of Amazon. I used to be one of those slightly judgmental, holier-than-thou baby boomers sniffing my contempt along with so many in my generation. You're pampered, you're entitled, your parents have done too much for you, you're pathetically incompetent, you're narcissists. Because you grew up thinking everyone gets a trophy, you don't understand the value of hard work, sacrifice, or delayed gratification. You have self-esteem, all right, but it's self-esteem without portfolio, self-esteem on steroids. And technology has made you both self-centered and craving for approval from people you don't even know, with likes on Instagram, friends on Facebook, and followers on Twitter. Well, guess what, millennials? On behalf of all of you, as well as my own 21-year-old daughter, I'd like to say, shut your pie hole, people. To all of you sitting here today, don't let anyone, and I mean anyone, define who you are. Sweeping generalizations are unfair and misguided, and when they're about entire generations, they are often just plain wrong. Think of yourselves as a painting by the great pointillist George Seurat. From a distance, you may appear to be a single image, but if you look more closely, you'll see that image, in fact, is made up of an infinite number of tiny dabs of paint. Each one of you is unique, and you are the only ones who can define who you are or what you will become. Which brings me to my next question. Oh gosh, Caitlin, I hope I don't butcher your last name. Caitlin Dimitrison, is that right, Caitlin? Where are you, Caitlin? Hi, Caitlin, did I say it right? Close, thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. Caitlin asks, how do you think our generation is uniquely equipped to rise to the challenge? Well, I'm sure many of you here have heard the phrase, the greatest generation, coined by my former colleague, Tom Brokaw. It describes the generation of Americans who grew up during the Depression and World War II. Well, a recent Time magazine article by Joel Stein asked if you all graduating today might actually be the next greatest generation. Joel wrote, the generation that experienced Monica Lewinsky's dress, 9/11, the longest wars in U.S. history, the Great Recession, and an Arab Spring that looks at best like a late winter, is nevertheless optimistic about its own personal chances of success. And you should be, for a few reasons. First, one of the disses about millennials is also one of your greatest gifts. You're all wired 24/7. You've never known a world that wasn't filled with laptops, smartphones, and the internet. And because of that, you already have something we need to move this nation through the 21st century. The knowledge that we really are all connected. And there is a great big world out there for you to explore online and perhaps more importantly off. You respect diversity and are far more tolerant than your parents or your grandparents' generation. You are also more philanthropic and service-oriented. 75% of you donated to a cause you believe in last year or helped raise money for that cause. That is awesome. You march to your own drummers, and that makes for good leaders. You question the status quo, and you should. That's because a business model for the poster child of your generation, Mark Zuckerberg, embraces change and has proven it helps us all move forward. Who didn't get annoyed when suddenly Facebook forced you to make a timeline instead of just a regular old wall? Frustrating, sure, but never boring, always fresh, and always keeping us coming back. It's called life hacking, which is defined as thinking out of the box to improve productivity and get better results. You are all life hackers by nature and by nurture. And that keeps all of you looking for better ways of doing things, and all of us optimistic that you will create, navigate, and innovate a future we could only imagine in our dreams. And your sheer numbers alone, 82 million of you, bigger than any other demographic. That means you're bound to boost the economy as you move out, buy houses, and get jobs. Well, unless you can't find work and move back in with your parents. But hey, as long as it's not forever, it's okay. I did it too. But that brings me to your next question, Ethan Litvin. Hi, Ethan. Hi. Ethan wants to know, how were you able to land your dream job after graduation, and what steps did you take to get there? Well, Ethan, I don't know if anyone really lands their dream job right after graduation. You'll likely be the low man or woman on the totem pole, and it will be just the beginning of a long and probably winding career path. Unlike the days when you worked at one company and retired with a gold watch and a pension, many of you will have worked an average of 7 jobs by the time you're 26 years old. But as the saying goes, you have to start somewhere. And let me pause for a minute to say something about finding your passion. Yes, it is critically important to do something you love, because if you love it, you'll be good at it. But don't spend the next few years navel-gazing, searching endlessly for your true calling. Even if it's not the perfect job, get in there and do something. You never know who you might meet, what it might lead to, and if you'll discover a related field for which you're better suited. In other words, don't let this period of finding yourself find you at 30 in your parents' basement playing Xbox. So, how do you get your foot in the door for that first job? Well, take a lesson from the Cowardly Lion, courage, or you might call it chutzpah, if you're from New York. My late father, who was such an inspiration to me and one of my personal heroes, called it moxie. Whatever you call it, it's the ability to leap before you look, to know you may be better sorry than safe, to go for it with no guarantees. So Ethan, this is how I landed my job in television. It was 1979. That was the year of the Rod Stewart song, Do You Think I'm Sexy, and Gloria Gaynor's disco anthem, I Will Survive. I think my personal soundtrack is more the latter than the former. I knew I wanted a job in television news, and after suffering one rejection after another, I decided I was going to be proactive. I donned my best Dress for Success outfit, which back then basically meant you look like a flight attendant. My mother gave me a ride in our cream-colored Buick station wagon from our house in Arlington to the ABC News Bureau in Washington, D.C. And when I got there, I asked an imposing security guard if I could see Kevin Delaney, the deputy bureau chief. After he stopped laughing, I asked him if I could make a phone call from the lobby. I called Davey Newman, who was then the executive producer of World News Tonight. Here's how the conversation went. Hi, Davey. You don't know me, but your twin brothers, Steve and Eddie, went to high school with my sister Kiki, and I live down the street from your cousin Julie. Could I come up and just say a quick hi? Cut to me in the ABC newsroom being personally delivered to Kevin Delaney's door. Better yet, cut to me with my first job in television. I made coffee, I made Xeroxes, I also made friends I still know today. On my first day, Sam Donaldson, then the White House correspondent, leapt onto my desk and started singing at the top of his lungs, Katie. A little embarrassing, yet somehow strangely exciting. Imagine if I had never had the moxie to call Davey Newman. But moxie alone does not a great career make. It also requires persistence. I speak from experience here, so Meredith Eccles, thank you for providing me with a perfect segue with the following question. Why do you think it's important to not give up when you're ambitiously developing a career? Well, first of all, if you give up, you lose. Game over, and you'll never know what might have been if you stayed in the game. Here's a true story. About a year into my first job, I decided to leave ABC and head to a fledgling startup called CNN, or as my snobby network news colleagues called it, Chicken Noodle News. There I would work as a producer and get my first crack at reporting. At the White House, no less, because that's the perfect beat for someone with absolutely no experience. I stayed up all night practicing in front of my mirror, speaking slowly and deliberately into my hairbrush. It was very Jan Brady. My assignment was to preview the president's schedule that day. But during the commercial break, before I was about to go on, my knees knocking, my mouth dry, I could hear the two anchors, and they were talking about me. Who is that girl, one of them asked. I don't know, said the other, but she looks like she's about 16 years old. The president afterwards of CNN called the assignment desk and said he never wanted me on the air again. Needless to say, I was devastated. And TGHD, thank God for Haagen-Dazs. My boss at CNN, though, in retrospect, wasn't being cruel. He was absolutely right. I stunk. Rejection can be humbling, but it can also be a huge motivator, especially for competitive people like me. So I didn't let that experience kill my dream, or as I often say, I didn't let the turkeys get me down. I went on to work in local news in Miami and Washington, D.C., and lo and behold, the more I did it, the better I got. My big break came when my dear friend and mentor, the late Tim Russert, told me I had spunk. Unlike Lou Grant, he likes spunk. Google that, kids, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So he offered me a job as the deputy Pentagon correspondent for NBC. By 1991, I was co-anchor of the Today Show, where I spent, as you heard, 15 fantastic years. I covered triumphs at the Olympics, tragedies here at home like Columbine, the bombing in Oklahoma City, and 9/11, which I believe was one of the most important assignments of my career. And there was endless variety. Where else could you interview Yasser Arafat, Howard Stern, and Miss Piggy in the same week? It was such a privilege, but after one too many 5 a.m. wake-up calls, I was ready for a new adventure. The opportunity to become the first solo female anchor of a network evening newscast was hard to turn down. After all, when I started in TV news, there were still plenty of guys who wanted to keep the broads out of broadcasting. Back then, in fact, harass was 2 words, not 1. I always have to pause for a minute when I tell that joke, because it usually takes people a second. The chance to show that a woman on her own could handle the job with intelligence and competence seemed worth the risk. But one of the problems with being a trailblazer is Sometimes you get burned. And those valuable lessons I learned early on about not giving up were still going to be necessary. In the first few months at CBS, TV critics wrote about my clothes, my hair, my makeup, even the way I held my hands. Some said I lacked gravitas, which I have decided is in fact Latin for testicles. It was a rocky start, but I remember a note from a former colleague who had written to me as I was leaving NBC, which said, "Boats are always safe in the harbor, but that's not what boats are built for." I was determined to ride out the storm. I focused on the news and not the noise, and it got better. 5 years later, it was time to take another chance, another risk. Last September, as we heard, I launched a daytime talk show with the highly original name of Katie. Now I think I'm going to have to change that to Dr. Katie. Take that, Dr. Phil. I feel that my whole career and the wide range of experiences I've been fortunate enough to have prepared me well for this new role. Yes, I can arm wrestle Jenny McCarthy, but I can also host an hour on adoption, sexual assault in the military, autism. That is what all those years at the Today Show and the Evening News trained me to do. And just think if I had let a bad day at CNN 33 years ago stop me. But life is not all about work. Hillary Sherbert asked the age-old question regarding that sometimes elusive work-life balance. How, she inquired, do you manage the many aspects of your life, career, daughters, friends, family? Well, Hillary, just like millennials, there are enough books on this topic to fill the McGraw-Page library. Can women have it all? Can men have it all? Can anybody really have it all? Things are definitely changing, and with every generation, the playing field gets leveled more and more. Nowadays, 70% of all moms work outside the home. A recent Pew study found that 4 out of 10 married moms earn more money than their husbands, or are the sole breadwinners. And the number of stay-at-home dads has doubled in the last decade. But still, the perennial conversation about having it all seems as relevant as ever. The answer is, there is no answer, except the one that works for you. With all due respect to Sheryl Sandberg, whether you lean in, lean out, or lean back, that's your choice, and only you can decide what your priorities are. There is a very good chance you'll feel torn every now and then, or perhaps often. For me, it's the guilt I feel when I have to miss one of my daughter's track meets for an interview or a meeting at work. And then the guilt I feel when I turn down a big interview because I'm looking at colleges with my daughter. Having a demanding job and a fulfilling family life is challenging. Perhaps your generation will be more successful than mine has been at demanding we do more to support working families in this country. From affordable child care to family-friendly work policies, there needs to be a bigger safety net for moms and dads as they try to strike the right balance between parenthood and professional success. You know, I waited to have my kids until I was 34 and 39 when my career was going strong. Proving myself a valuable asset professionally before I had my children gave me the security to know my job would be there when I came back from maternity leave. I'm all for establishing your career so your value at work can afford you more leverage and then more flexibility at home. But if you all want to have children, do not put it off indefinitely. If 40 is the new 30, someone forgot to tell your ovaries. Your fertility decreases significantly as you age. So girls, just keep that in mind. I'm not suggesting you go out and do anything tonight. And you probably never thought you'd be getting family planning advice from your graduation speaker, but knowledge is power. Next, Tolson Music asks, is there one thing you wish you could have told your graduating self that would have been greatly beneficial? What would that be? I think this quote from John Lennon Tolson would have been helpful, and that is, life is what happens when you're making other plans. There are no guarantees and no way to predict the future. I wish I had a crystal ball right now and could tell each of you when your hearts will be broken, when you will experience crushing loss, when people will disappoint you and events will set you back. All I do know is that you will all experience many of those things. And I also know you'll find the strength to get through them. In 1997, I had a fantastic career, a wonderful, intelligent husband, 2 healthy, beautiful daughters who were 1 and 5 at the time. I felt safe, happy, and complete. And then in an instant, everything changed. In April of that year, my husband Jay was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and my life, as I had imagined it, was crumbling before my eyes. But every day during his 9-month battle, I was in awe of my husband's extraordinary courage, grace, and humor. And every single day, I felt like there was a vice around my heart. On January 24th, 1998, Jay collapsed in the bathroom and died on the way to the hospital. He was 42 years old. Suddenly, I was a single mom and a member of a club I never in a million years anticipated joining. Ah, that nice cool breeze, maybe that's Jay. Certainly not at that age. I was a widow. It felt so weird to even say that word. In the months after Jay's death, I was inundated with books about grief and how to deal with it, but I derived the most strength from a simple quote by Thomas Jefferson, who said, "The earth belongs to the living," and I had to go on living. I had to, for my daughters. And thankfully, I had a job that enabled me to turn my grief into advocacy. At the Today Show, I had a built-in bully pulpit that allowed me to educate the public about colon cancer and to try to prevent other families from enduring the heartache that ours had. I needed to share what I had learned, that colorectal cancer is the second leading cancer killer of men and women in this country, but with early detection, it has a better than 90% cure rate. My on-air colonoscopy brought whole new meaning to the term up close and personal. But as we heard from President Lindgren, there was a 20% increase in the procedure, and that meant hundreds, perhaps thousands of lives saved. And while those researchers at the University of Michigan call it the Couric effect, I call it the Jay Monahan effect. 4 years after my husband died, I lost my sister Emily to pancreatic cancer. As some of you might know, she was a state senator representing Charlottesville, and many predicted she would one day be the first female governor of Virginia. I can honestly tell you she was the real star of our family. And nearly 12 years after her death, we still miss her so much. Losing my husband and my sister made me want to do everything I possibly could to eradicate this insidious disease. The work I've done creating Stand Up to Cancer and increasing colon cancer awareness has meant far more to me than interviewing presidents, prime ministers, even Bradley Cooper. But he is pretty cute. I'll never forget the moment when my daughter Ellie turned to me in the kitchen when she was about 9 years old and told me how proud she was of all the things I had done to fight cancer. I agree with Maury Schwartz from Tuesdays with Maury, who once told Mitch Albom, "Giving makes me feel like I'm living." Finding a higher purpose is so important, and you've honed the qualities required to do this right here at Randolph-Macon: a generous spirit and an open heart. One of your classmates told me a story that I felt really sums up the kind of people who are here today. When a fire ripped through the Theta Chi house this past fall, thankfully no one was hurt, but everything was lost: computers, clothes, and all the other things that make up life in a frat house. I don't want to know. But what happened next was, as President Lindgren said, awe-inspiring. You stepped up as a class and as a community to help those students quickly get their lives back to normal. One student described Randolph-Macon this way: "Here you will meet some of the greatest people ever because they make you feel like family and believe in helping others." Please continue that tradition after you leave this campus. And continue on your path to being a better man or woman. Carry with you the qualities that have been burnished here during the last 4 years. Be a person of honor, integrity, respect others. Remember that good manners never go out of style. Believe me, I always notice. The losses I've experienced have taught me something else as well. We are all terminal. We all have a finite amount of time on the planet. So you must appreciate the gifts that every day of your life will bring. Your family, your friends, a beautiful sky at sunset, a perfect ear of corn in August, the first snowfall, a baby's tiny hand. Be grateful for the time you have and savor the joy that comes your way. Look for those in-between moments, not big events, but the little ones, when you're laughing with a friend, taking a walk among the cherry blossoms, or helping an elderly neighbor with her groceries. In fact, one of my favorite people, Anna Quindlen, wrote in her book, A Short Guide to a Happy Life, "Life is made up of moments, small pieces of glittering mica in a long stretch of gray cement. It would be wonderful if they would come to us unsummoned, but particularly in lives as busy as the lives most of us lead now, that won't happen. We have to teach ourselves how to make room for them, to love them, and to live, really live. There is so much waiting for you. Put down that iPhone so you won't miss it. Live, really live, and do everything you can to be the next great generation. Congratulations and good luck."
Katie, I think the response of this audience sums up our deep appreciation for your practical advice, your inspiration, your wisdom in using our students to put together that very, very helpful message you've left us with today. I think we've experienced today a new Couric effect, and we look forward to seeing what that's going to mean in the lives of the class of 2013 and everyone else here in the weeks and months and years to come. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She mentioned the generosity of this generation, and you're going to see a wonderful example of that. I'd like to invite graduating seniors Jesse Holt and Nick Lapras to come forward to announce the senior gift to the college. And would Society of Alumni President Kay Stottlemyre, class of 1999, join us as well?
Good morning, President Langren, distinguished guests, fellow graduates of the class of 2013. The purpose of the Senior Class Gift Campaign is to educate our class about the importance of giving back to Randolph-Macon. Each senior was asked to make a donation to the college, and the class of 2013 gift reflects the collective sum of all of our contributions. On behalf of the Senior Class Gift Committee, I would like to present President Lindgren and Randolph-Macon College the 2013 Senior Class Gift was $6,074.26.
More importantly, 96% of the class of 2013 made a donation. Which sets a new Senior Class Gift Campaign participation record at Randolph-Macon. By giving so generously, our class has shown our commitment to the college and reaffirmed our understanding of that universal truth, that no matter what great heights we will reach in our lifetime, no one does it alone. Many graduates are here today because someone gave them the chance to succeed through their generous gifts to the college. Now it is our chance to do so, to continue providing opportunities for the Randolph-Macon students who will come after us. The Senior Class Gift Committee would like to thank everyone who supported the campaign this year. Best wishes in all your future endeavors.
Thank you. Well, on behalf of everyone at Randolph-Macon College, the faculty, staff, and students, and especially the future generation of students, I'd like to thank you, Jesse and Nick, your great committee, and the class of 2013 for that remarkable, record-breaking gift to Randolph-Macon College. And when Katie Couric talks again about the generosity of this generation, she's going to have to round up that figure of 70% because of this class. Call that the Randolph-Macon class of 2013 effect. I now ask Kate Stottlemyre to make some remarks.
Despite the 14 years that have passed, it feels like yesterday when I was sitting in your seat, sharing in the emotions that you're feeling today. As you look at the next step in your life with both excitement and trepidation, you should know that the foundation of a Randolph-Macon experience will take you great places. I'm already impressed with your accomplishments as a class of 2013, like having an unprecedented 96% participation to the senior class gift. I'm eager to see how each of you will continue to contribute your time and resources to the college in the coming years. Today is not just your graduation, but also your first and likely most ceremonious Randolph-Macon alumni event ever. On behalf of all those who walked before you, I'd like to extend a big and warm welcome to the Society of Alumni. It's great to have you. I look forward to seeing you at future alumni events.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our senior speaker. She is a superb representative of our talented senior class. Elisa Warren has followed in the footsteps of her mother by not only attending Randolph-Macon College, but also by deciding to pursue a career in the field of medicine. Dr. Jan Carter, a member of the class of 1978, is a neonatologist and also serves as a trustee of the college. Dr. Carter, I know that you must be immensely proud of your daughter. Elisa is receiving a bachelor's degree today with majors in biology and religious studies. She was recently inducted into Phi Beta Kappa and received the John B. and Anita S. Werner Award given annually for outstanding contributions to the college and the community. In addition to being inducted into several honor societies on campus, she is the first RMC student to be granted early acceptance into Eastern Virginia Medical School through a new guaranteed admissions agreement between that institution and Randolph-Macon. Congratulations, you are on your way to becoming a doctor. During her time here, she enjoyed the full Randolph-Macon experience, both inside and outside the classroom. She was a research assistant in Dr. Wallace Martin's mycology lab, a member of the Pre-Health Society, a head mentor for the Higgins Academic Center, and a biology tutor. In addition, she helped cheer on the Yellow Jackets as a member of the Remix dance team and helped lift our spirits as a member of the Ujima Gospel Choir. We are pleased to have shared these years with her and look forward to hearing about the bright future ahead of her. Class of 2013, please welcome your senior speaker, Elisa Warren, to the stage.
Thank you so much, President Lindgren, and thank you, members of the Board of Trustees, my beloved classmates, friends and family, esteemed faculty and honored guests, alumni. It is an honor to stand here before you this evening and to share with you my story of Randolph-Macon. Before I begin, I need to thank one person, you guessed it, my mother, who happened to strongly suggest that I attend Randolph-Macon College. It was 1978 when my mother graduated from Randolph-Macon, and she loved her time here so much that she wanted the same for me. Now, more than ever, I understand her perspective. I have fallen in love with Randolph-Macon College. I suspect that many of my fellow classmates feel the same way about this place and the people here, this community. And we would all like to thank our supportive family and friends for being here on this special, highly anticipated occasion. Standing here today, I am flooded with conflicting emotions. Our graduation, the completion of our undergraduate years at Randolph-Macon is both a time of joyous excitement and elation and a time of nervous anticipation of what is to come. Yet, as we approach this long-awaited finish line, we recognize that today is also a time of commencement, or rather a time to commence, to begin. As such, I would like to remind you that new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Today, I will tell a story of new beginnings and new people. For the graduating class of 2013, what seemed to be painful endings in the fall of 2009 were in fact new beginnings. We were newly minted high school graduates, leaving behind friends and family, homes and memories, stability and routine in order to start anew. Our hearts and minds were filled with the same competing emotions that we feel today: excitement to enter a new phase of our lives, and sadness about leaving everything else behind. In that time of anxious transition, we all met new people here at Randolph-Macon who eased our way and who made that almost painful ending into an exciting new beginning, a new adventure. These are the people who often go unnoticed but who make this campus a home. The people who took the time to care about each and every one of us. In case we haven't had time in the last 4 years or so to say our thank yous, I would like to recognize these often underappreciated people for their helping hands and their open arms. Who are these people? I am talking about the teachers whose doors were never closed to us, the campus safety officers who kept us safe and also stopped to ask us how we were, the generous alumni who contributed to the flourishing of our college and who still come here today to see you, the RAs and advisors who were willing to talk during a bad week, the organizations that welcomed and accepted you, the new friends who quickly became our best friends, and the teachers who were willing to talk even when it wasn't about school. I could name many more. Fellow classmates, who is it that has made a difference in your time at RMC? Who are the people who eased your transition and made it into a wonderful new beginning? If I have failed to thank them today, I invite you to thank them for us all. These are the people who made Randolph-Macon our home despite our earliest anxieties. And to illustrate the contributions of these people to the class of 2013, I will share a few of my own personal stories. And I hope that these stories remind you of your own unique experiences. In the spring of my freshman year, I impulsively signed up for a course that I desperately wanted to take, but that would challenge me in ways I could not have foreseen. It was a 300-level religious studies course, and at the time I did not even know what religious studies entailed. So I show up to class on the first day, and my stomach drops as I see the syllabus. Essays, tests, readings, and a major presentation by myself in front of the class. I thought, I don't know if I can do this. Looking down in terror at this piece of paper, I suddenly heard my professor, Dr. Wright, talking in the kindest, most cheerful tone I have ever heard in someone at 8 in the morning. It occurred to me in that moment that this teacher really cared, and suddenly I knew that I would be all right. Maybe I would even be a religious studies major. Just like many of you who have felt similarly overwhelmed, I was reassured and encouraged by a supportive faculty member. For all of us, there have been more teachers than can be mentioned in a single speech who have made our time at Randolph-Macon transformative. Yet, there is one teacher who, for me, represents everything that I love about this place. Dr. Wallace Martin has been my professor, my mentor, my friend, and my inspiration since I started working with him in his lab 3 years ago. I cannot thank you enough, Dr. Martin, for spending so much time with me even when our experiments seemed sure to fail, for never getting upset at the things that I broke, and for helping me to find my niche in biology. Fellow classmates, which teachers have influenced your perspective, have pushed you to succeed in your respective fields, and has even been present in your lives beyond the classroom. Even in small ways, through everyday acts, the people at this college have been a persistently uplifting force. For example, while I was horribly sick in a foreign country, Dr. Hedrick and the rest of the class bought me yellow roses to cheer me up. When I needed advice, my boss at the Academic Center, Dr. Bruce, always invited me into her office even when I know that she was busy. When I needed shadowing experience and every door seemed closed to me, an alumnus, Dr. Trevette, invited me into his office and gave me his time. When I was by myself studying, campus safety officers always said hello. When I went into Estes, Miss Norma always remembered my name. When it was late at night, but I really needed someone to talk to, my roommate Kelly Connor was a listening ear and faithful friend. On this day of reflection, we might pause and recall the small and valuable acts of caring that are representative of our Randolph-Macon family. Before I conclude, I have one more group to tell a story about, and perhaps you can think of a group that you were involved in that meant something similar to you. One day, I happened to wander into a room where the Ujima Gospel Choir was practicing and singing the most beautiful song called Total Praise. That song means everything to Ujima, but I didn't know that at the time. I knew right then that I wanted to join this group, but I had absolutely no musical training, and I was not sure if they would want me. I was not really even sure if I can sing. However, to my surprise and relief, Ujima welcomed me with open arms and no hesitation. What they don't know, and what I never told them, was that a woman who meant the world to me, who shaped me, and who helped to raise me for the majority of my life, she loved gospel music, and she had passed away only a few weeks prior. In a world of exclusion, Ujima, your acceptance turned a painful ending into a beautiful new beginning. My fellow soon-to-be graduates of the class of 2013, as we look back to 4 years ago, it seems the new beginnings we once feared have quickly turned into our fondest memories. Today, we again stand on a precipice. A sharp divide lies ahead between the old and the new. We are struck by the great unknown that is before us, yet we should not fear the ending of our undergraduate years. For if past experience can give us any indication of what is to come, expect a thrilling, wonderful, gratifying new beginning. Thank you.
Elisa, thank you for that wonderful address. You've inspired all of us. Especially, I want to thank you for thanking those who've made a difference. And you're a wonderful symbol of your class, who I know will go out and continue to make a difference. It is now my honor to present the Murray Medal Award. The H.W. Murray Medal for Scholarship was established in 1889 by a legacy of Mrs. W.T. Goodwin of Louisa County, Virginia, in memory of her father. It is the valedictorian award presented to the member of the graduating class having the highest cumulative average. And so today, we have not just heard a senior address, we have heard a valedictory address. It is my great pleasure to announce that the H.W. Murray Medal for Scholarship, the valedictorian of the class of 2013, is Elisa Warren. Congratulations.
I would now like to recognize one of our graduating seniors, Jared Evans, who among his other co-curricular activities made a commitment to the Army ROTC program, which we offer in conjunction with the University of Richmond. This afternoon, in a special ceremony, Jared will be commissioned a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. We congratulate Jared on this noble accomplishment and wish him Godspeed as he serves our country. And before conferring degrees on our seniors, I'm delighted to announce that Dr. Matthew G. Rivkin, who left Randolph-Macon in 1959 after 3 years to attend the Medical College of Virginia, is later today receiving a Bachelor of Liberal Studies diploma from his alma mater. Congratulations, Dr. Rivkin.
It is now my pleasure to confer degrees on this group of terrific seniors. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree please rise, and gentlemen, put on your caps. President Lindgren, I have the honor to present to you certain candidates for the degree Bachelor of Science. The registrar has certified that each of these candidates has completed all the requirements for the degree, and the faculty has voted unanimously to award these degrees.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the Commonwealth of Virginia, I am pleased to confer upon you the degree Bachelor of Science with all the rights, privileges, and honors appertaining thereto. Please move your tassel from your right to the left, and congratulations.
Would the sponsors of these graduates please rise? And sponsors, please hood your graduates. Thank you. You may be seated. Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts please rise? President Lindgren, I have the further honor to present to you certain candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts. The registrar has certified that each of these candidates has completed all the requirements for the degree, and the faculty has voted unanimously to award the degrees.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the Commonwealth of Virginia, I am pleased to confer upon you the degree Bachelor of Arts with all the rights, privileges, and honors appertaining thereto. Please move your tassel from your right to your left. Congratulations.
Would the sponsors please rise? Sponsors, please hood your graduates. Thank you. You may be seated. Marshals, please escort the graduates to the platform to receive their diplomas. Elisa Marie Warren, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, H.W. Murray Medal for Scholarship, John B. and Anita S. Werner Phi Beta Kappa Award. Casey Nicole Barber, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa with honors. Jessica Nicole Sears, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, Smithy Mathematics Medal. Haley Nicole Williamson, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Maggie Elizabeth Benson, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Mary Megan Muberry, cum laude, with honors. Amanda Marie Nelms, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Joshua Oliver Storm, cum laude. Christopher Charles Worth, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa with honors. Brandon James Baker. Lacey Lee Berry. Lisa Berryman Borum. Terry O'Neill Clark II. Lauren Alexine Drury. Madison Page Delaney. Jared James Evans. Lamar Antoine Jiggets. James Rivers Gunter. Larry Gunter Jr. Darren Nathan Hall II. Elizabeth Yvonne Jean. Mark Anthony Lepore. Heather Nicole Lewis with honors. Kenneth James Lewis Jr. Seth Aaron Litvin. William James Lathian. Ngazi Perpetual Encedo. Brooke Juliette Reamer. Ryan David Risha. Victoria Renee Robinson. Fernando Ruben Roshi Borgo. Mariah Rose Rogers. Zachary Allen Sherrod. Jamie Chantel Terry. Claude William Thompson III. Jamal Jonathan Jerome Wallace. Rodrigo Ernesto Walsh. Jesse Allen Willard II. Lauren Brian Wood with honors. Quenisha LaShawn Wooten. Rebecca Ann Davis, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Ashley Marie Harper, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa with honors. Alma Virginia Hendrick, magna cum laude. Rachel Joanna Johnson, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. John B. and Anita S. Werner Phi Beta Kappa Award. Callie Ann Lester, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Matthew Douglas McClendon, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Duke Chen Nguyen, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Noble R. McEwen Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Social Sciences. Carly Ann Pendleton, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa with honors. Bennett Memorial Historical Award. Rachel Marie Riggs, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Randall Tennyson Timmerman, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa with honors. Kimberly Nicole Turner, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Desiree Christine Ella Anderson, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Matthew Ryan Atkinson, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Catherine Eliza Bailey Sullivan, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Caitlin Elizabeth Berner, cum laude. Bo Ashley Shim Hazelgrove, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Aaliyah Kathleen Headley, cum laude. Ryan Anthony Contra, cum laude. Cara Marie Lundgren, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Robert Epps Jones Prize in Classical Studies. Paige Erin McManus, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Connor David Moe, cum laude. Ashley Beverly Roth, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Hillary Patricia Sherbert, cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Emily Irene Smith, cum laude. Robert Douglas Allen. James Mackenzie Anderson. Kelly Ann Armstrong. Dustin Reed Balo. Justin Adam Baker. Sidney Blair Baker. Justin Rodwell Bates. Kelly Renee Beard. Luke Thomas Belke. Eric Otto Bender. Matthew Jacob Bokel. Kayla Lee Boring. Brantley Jackson Bourne. Frances Grace Bradshaw. Lydia Catherine Brandriff. Hillary Anna Brooks. Derek Alexander Brunn. Xavier David Bullitt. Daniel Harrison Birch. Michael Ann Seabrill Camp. Ian Gustavo Candelaria. Austin Wesley Carpenter. Andrew Joseph Carson. Mallory Austin Carter. Kendall Thomas Carwile. Stephen Matthew Chase. Andrew Bennett Cheatham. William Franklin Chu IV. Alanya Kriegman Chin. Allison Page Clary. Nicole D. Claybrooks. James Halligan Clements. Dylan Joshua Cole. Daniel James Crouch. Fenton Kelly Crowther. Jonathan Lee Dale. Andrew Bonner Davis. Jordan Alexander Davis. Cara Marie DeCesar. Ryan Patrick DeLay. Nicholas Tyler Digby. Ryan Lee Dixon. Kristen Brooke Dyes. Caitlin Nicole Demetrician. Catherine McKay Dodd. Louis Moffett Douglas. Alexander Jonathan Dove. Patrick Edward Dugan. David Robert Dutton. Meredith Hanson Eccles. Joel Stephen Ellswick. Amy Nicole Farish. David Benjamin Fetter. Alexa Jane Fisher. Catherine Collins Fitzgerald. Brian Jacob Fletcher. Alexandra K. Flores. Thomas Henson Ford. Bowling Lee Giroux. William Carberry Gillespie. John Thornton Glazebrook Jr. Swad Demetra Glover. Hannah Claire Gold Garvey. Samira Namaji Golo. Ashley Nicole Goodnight. Alexandra Lauren Gregoire. Claiborne Duncan Gregory III. Jessica Antoinette Guerin. Jaron Lee Hackman. Akeem Jamal Hardy. Jonathan Michael Harmon. Brandon Jared Harrison. Victoria Ann Harrison. Lindsay Catherine Harrow. Molly Elizabeth Hatcher. Brady Conlon Hatfield. Erin Marie Anderson Hauser. Michael Christopher Helbig. Jesse Stewart Holt. Kimberly Wren Hoyt. Justin Dalton Huffman. Mariam Assan. Mycia R. Jackson. Kyle Robert Jeans. Timothy Patrick Johnson Jr. Ashley O'Neill Jones. Megan Lindsay Jones. Skylar Christian Jones. Mark Edward Harriet Oscar Josie. Tyler Charles Kane. Casey Elizabeth Kaufman. William Brandon Kinar. Courtney Marie Krebs. Dale Robert Langford. Nicholas Donahue Lapris. Matthew Dwayne Londerville. Joseph Barrett Lehman. Ashley Gail Leisman. Margaret Ellen Leibowitz. Samantha Renee Ligon. Ethan David Litvin. Elizabeth Marie Lotz with honors. Elizabeth Aaron Luminoso. Anna Therese Helen Lundblom. Daniel Sean Lutz. Emily Ann Lynch. Laurel Catherine Martin. Robert Jack Martin. Cody Richard McInerney. Tiffany Nicole McGee. Elka Simone Mednick. Monique Rosiva Meeks. Joshua Thompson Merwin. Zachary Salvatore Medulla. Nicole Vera Morton. Sierra Caitlin Mostacone Wangenstein. Meredith Elizabeth Murray. Richard Tolson Music. Jesse Anthony Nacarado. Lauren Davis Nanny. Angela Nicole Nelms. Gavin Patrick Norris. Colin Gregory O'Connor. Ian Wesley Overstreet. Courtney Lucinda Owens. Mary Margaret Peterson. Colin Mark Peterson. Chase David Phillips. Joshua Gray Phillips. Brett Logan Pollard. Aleka Rose Prather. Catherine Gray Preddy. Patrick Murphy Protzman. Rachel Ann Teresa Rader. Laura Jane Raffner. Ashley Elizabeth Robertson. Andrew Carlton Rowe III. Timothy John Rowe Jr. Devin Faye Rowland. Kimberly Rebecca Rowley. Caitlin Lee Russ. Raymond Joseph Sean Ruby II. Holly Marie Sargent. Andrew Patrick Schick. Luke Emerson Sellers. Haley Noel Chenault. Miles Britton Shipman. Reba Nicole Sled. Michael John Smith. Brian Patrick Summer. Henry Alexander Spivey. Rebecca Grace Stevenson. Rachel Ann Stewart. John William Sweezy Jr. Allison Marie Thames. Brooke Elizabeth Templeton. Crystal Lynn Thomas. Justin Baker Thorne. Margaret Rosella Thorson. Caitlin Yardley Tigner. Alexandra Lee Truesdale. Kelsey Victoria Trundle. Emily Jean Viana. Ashton Elizabeth Wallace. Emily Christine Watt. Patricia Ann Wayland. John Hudson Webb. Chandler George Weston. Jamal Wesley Williams. Polly Beth Williams. Sean Hayden Williams. Alexander Stewart Willis. Emily Christina Winks. Connor Davison Wolf. Nicole Irene Woodworth. George Foster Exaratus Jr. Brittany Christine York. Mackenzie Jean Zaylor. Jordan Robert Zentz. The class of 2013 has graduated.
To the Randolph-Macon College class of 2013, it is now time for you to take your leave of this wonderful place. You have received an extraordinary education here, and I trust who you are and what you take away from this special college will hold you in good stead in all that you do. Here you should have, above all things, learned how to learn. And make yourself a pledge today. While your undergraduate days have reached their end, your days of being a student will never stop. And I hope that the values you have refined and maybe even developed here will help you to be strong leaders in our society and in our world. Before we leave today, we have two more important Randolph-Macon traditions to celebrate. You graduates would simply not be where you are today had it not been for the loving support of others. I speak of those who have encouraged and supported you graduates so magnificently. The mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers and brothers and sisters and loved ones all, so that they can receive the enthusiastic appreciation for these past 4 years and before. From the RMC class of 2013, would all of those loved ones of this class please stand and allow the class to express their appreciation to you. And by the way, graduates, you have another special reason to give thanks for your parents today, as the Randolph-Macon Parents Association, inspired by an idea of Professor Emeritus Robert Barrett, has made possible the special honored graduates brick walkway with your names inscribed that you have traversed to get here this morning. We certainly thank your parents for helping to make this walkway possible. Others who have lifted you graduates up on their shoulders for these past 4 years include the superb faculty of this institution and our caring staff. What I know best about this college is that students value most your connection with your dedicated and outstanding Randolph-Macon faculty, who in turn have so valued the well-being and success of you, their students, so that this group too can be recognized by the graduating class and their parents and loved ones, and to accept our grateful appreciation for another job well done. I ask the faculty and staff to stand. None of us would be who we are and where we are without our mentors. I know that you graduates have your own mentors to thank for today's important milestone, including special faculty and staff and members of your family and friends. And I encourage you to do that. That is, thank them and thank them early and often for what they have meant to you. Not enough of us do this. I would even go further than that. It's not just saying thank you, it's living the thank you that matters. I like the words of John F. Kennedy, who said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. I call that living by your gratitude, and I trust that part of your living by your gratitude, now that you've reached this important milestone in your life, will be by becoming effective mentors to others. You now have a most powerful platform from which to do just that. Voltaire had a different way of saying it. Appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what is excellent in others belong to us as well. And I so appreciate this class of 2013. I appreciate especially the way you have put up with a lot of construction around here. Always cheerfully, always positively, always generously, as evidenced by your record class gift. Even when, as in the case of the magnificent building that we now have on our north side this morning, you had to live for a full year without a real student center, and then couldn't really enjoy this one as an active student. But keep in mind, you've never been confused as to which Brock you're meeting your date in. There's another wonderful saying that comes to mind. The sign of maturity is accepting deferred gratification. I love the fact that as you were leaving from the senior picnic in my backyard, when I thanked one of the members of this class for being so patient about all this, you responded, "That's okay. It will be there for the next generation of students, right? Isn't that the way it's supposed to work?" That, my friends, is a powerful statement, and an awfully mature one. Understanding that in the normal course of things, you want your alma mater to keep getting better each and every day. That's good for the students who will follow. That's good for you. That's good for the class of 1963 who has shared this wonderful day with you. And I know that you're going to do your part to make sure that RMC keeps getting better in the future. And for the class of 2013, this special class who has been so patient, we have an equally special offer. Next week, we will break ground on Birdsong Hall, a new residence hall for seniors that will have additionally a wonderful pavilion in its center for special events. How about if we all agree to meet back here for the first football game in 2014, September 13 to be exact, for a one-year reunion, the first ever at Randolph-Macon and the first ever alumni event in that new Birdsong Hall pavilion. You guys are deserving of that, so keep your addresses current. And so it is. To the Randolph-Macon class of 2013, I offer my heartiest congratulations and Godspeed.
Please stand for the benediction. And following the benediction, please remain standing for the alma mater, which will be led by new graduate Randall Timmerman. Let us pray. Almighty God, we come to the end and to the beginning, to the end of these young people's studies at Randolph-Macon College and the beginning of the next era of their lives. We come to the end of this commencement ceremony and the departure of the class of 2013. Our prayers are with them as they leave us to begin life beyond the college. Oh God, remind them that they are not the first to step into an economy deemed troubled. Concerned as they may be just now with making a living, help them to know that such things will probably take care of themselves if they but learn to make a life worth living. Go with them, work through them, give them stars to aim for and a hand when they fall. And over time, may they remember Randolph-Macon College nostalgically and affectionately. And may they know that while none of us can stay in this place forever, something of this place can stay forever in us. We pray this in the name of the one who goes before us, bringing light and life to every place along the way. Amen.
you middle classes. You lower. Peter. You guys are great. Thank you.
Well, did she get the joke?